We're joined by former U.S. Marine and veteran advocate and business owner, Kate Monroe. She joins us now. Look, Kate, great to see you. Obviously, we're here waiting for the filibuster of President Trump's speech to end. But while we wait, look, I think we've been having this conversation about the stakes of this election. And the first thing that comes to mind for me, certainly a president in Joe Biden with his co-pilot in Kamala Harris, the last person in the room who handed Afghanistan to the Taliban, $85 billion in military hardware and cash left behind, and ultimately 13 American patriots losing their life. She's running for president. She hasn't called a single of those families. She hasn't met with them. And she's the person who was in the room that made the decision that cost those young men and women their lives. My question is simple. How is that possible?
Well, I would ask how it's possible that she's even running for vice president. We'll start there. But the second thing, being a Marine Corps veteran, being the CEO of VetCom, a company who helps veterans get their disability benefits, I would tell you it's not just 13 lives lost. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, and that number has grown. There's 15 homeless vets that die on the street every single day. And after what happened in Afghanistan, everybody said, why on earth did we go? What was all the loss of my friends for? What was the loss of my limbs for? And the suicide had a massive uptick. I just think it's absolutely disgusting not to call these families, not to give a single damn about the veterans in the country, not to really care about the active duty military personnel that you put at risk by allowing nearly 3 world wars to break out. I just find it appalling, and I really hope that veterans and active duty who have a low propensity to vote, I would call all you guys need to get out and vote for President Trump for the safety of our nation.
You talk about, what's really at stake. President Trump, people want to say that his foreign policy was a disaster. I say you must be living in an alternative universe. We didn't have Russia invading Ukraine when President Trump was there. We did have it under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We did have it under a guy named Barack Obama, who watched Vladimir Putin annex Crimea and do nothing. We certainly didn't have 23,000 military aids men from China being sent here effectively by the CCP. We didn't have the president of Haiti being assassinated under the watchful eye of American intelligence. We didn't have the South China Sea being claimed in its entirety by the Chinese Communist Party to go along with the spy balloons above our heads and the Chinese police stations in our communities. And so for me, any way you want to slice it, it is a complete and unmitigated disaster when it comes to our military, when it comes to the foreign policy, when it comes to our national sovereignty, and yes, when it comes to the security of the U.S. homeland.
I 100% agree. In fact, I think the only reason that all these other countries who are staged sort of like the game Battleship, they are ready to push the button at any given second. I think the reason that they don't is like when you're a little kid and you mess up and your mom says, hey, you wait till your dad gets home. I think that the rest of these countries are waiting to see if dad gets home. And I think that they think, you know what, there's a good chance President Trump could get in and we might not want to mess around too hard because we're certain to find out.
I mean, I'm sitting here, we're having this serious conversation, and meanwhile, there is a unserious woman running for president who apparently can't even tell her own jokes in person. This is how bad they know she is. I'm just astonished. I have friends and yes, even some family that, for reasons passing understanding, find themselves filling in bubbles next to Democrats on the ballot. But I don't understand how you look at this complete charade where this is highly produced and no one actually calls it out.
Well, I can tell you exactly how it happens. I'm married to a liberal Democrat atheist, and I actually think that many on the left have what they call Stockholm syndrome, where you've been a captive to the ideology so long that you can't really see your way out of it. You start to make excuses for your captor, and you just fall into the cycle where you don't know how to get out. They could be presented with like the Russia hoax being a hoax. They're not going to believe it. They could be shown that the border is in fact open. They're not going to believe it. I don't know what it's going to take. I thought when Laken Riley was killed and when, this other mother was killed, that would really open people's eyes, but it didn't. I don't know what it's going to take. If it's going to take something happening to your family for you to wake up. But if you want your daughters to get drafted into the next war, keep on voting the same way. If you want to keep the black and brown community poor, keep on voting the same way. But if you're ready for real change, not this nonsense change, not this turning the page bunch of caca, you need to vote for Trump to keep our country safe. It's time for real change. It's time for a real president in this country.
You know, it's crazy. I sit here and I look at this, and I think it's almost a perfect microcosm for this election. Kamala Harris is not going to show up for you. She won't show up to tell the insincere jokes. She's not going to show up to stop World War III when Vladimir Putin presses his advantage. She's not going to tell Xi Jinping to kick rocks. I mean, I don't know how we're supposed to believe that that woman that we're looking at right there with the pre-canned lines and the perfect set behind her is the person that we're supposed to be depending on to stop World War III after everything she and Joe Biden did drove us to the brink of it.
Well, trusting that would be absolute nonsense. You know, when I ran for Congress, I actually took razor wire down to the border many times to secure the border. I've gone out and visited our homeless veterans, you know, looking into homeless, drugs, lawlessness. I help veterans every single day. And not one time did she, as border czar, make her way down to the border. I don't know what she was busy doing besides letting in and inviting in and marketing in millions and millions of illegal immigrants to completely decimate all of these small counties, redistrict all of America. But she's not going to show up for you. And if you're looking for somebody to do something big, you need somebody who talks boldly and carries a big stick. You know, you want to talk about why other countries don't mess around with Trump. You just had to show them a picture of their family and say, you know what? You want to touch one hair on an American's head, I will come after you and your family and I will lay waste to them. That's the kind of man we need in the White House. We don't need all this joy and this nonsense. Enough is enough. America, you need to wake up, stop all this woke nonsense. I pray that you would become awake.
I mean, it's really crazy. I mean, you have to remember that if you live in a town like East Palestine, Ohio, the place was brought to its knees, a train exploded, chemicals spread to 16 different states, the home value was decimated, people are getting sick, we have no idea the long-term implications. Joe Biden didn't show up for a year. I mean, you've got places like Chimney Rock that no longer exist, and Kamala Harris is nowhere to be found. I still remember when Barack Obama, whether you hate him or love him, had the decency to show up at the Jersey Shore and greet the governor of New Jersey and say, hey, let's figure out what's going on here. It took them a week. A week. I mean, how many different ways do they have to tell you that they cannot be bothered with entertaining what is actually going to be good for the American people? So, I mean, final word to you here, Kate. As you look at this as a veteran, as a business owner, as we sit here waiting mercifully for this filibuster to end, what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are this. If you're a Christian, you need to go vote. It's not enough to say, hey, we don't like abortion. You got to go vote for the change, right? If you're a veteran and you're active duty military and you don't want to be in the middle of all these wars, guess what? You need to go vote. If you're in the black and brown community and you're tired of what you've been getting by this left-leaning pill that you've been eating all these years, maybe the red pill is your choice now. But everybody needs to go and vote. We can't sit idly by. And as you said, putting a yard sign in the lawn's not going to get it done. Call every single person that you know and get out and vote.
All right, Kate Monroe, thank you so much for joining us.